Today we're going to talk about how to create custom camera profiles using the X-Rite ColorChecker Passport. And what you need to do is you take the color checker and you photograph it in whatever lighting condition you're wanting to create the custom profile for. So in this case, I wanted to create a custom profile for my Nikon D800 shot in daylight to see how different the profile would be from the Adobe Camera Standard. So what I'm going to do is open up ColorChecker Camera Calibration. With that open, just enlarge this here. You can do either a single illuminant, which is just the DNG, or a dual, in which case you would do one in tungsten and one in daylight. And I'm just going to do one for daylight. You have to start off with a DNG file. So once you shoot these, take them into Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw or DNG converter or whatever, and convert them into an Adobe DNG. Once that's done, I'm just going to drop and drag the DNG into the window. It will automatically load the image for me and will determine where the boxes are on the color checker for the software. Once it does that, you can see here each of the green boxes is highlighted the colors in the color checker. If it's off, you can grab these dots in the corner and reposition it. Very rarely is it ever off. I'm going to go ahead and click Create Profile. It automatically knows that this is a D800. I'm going to title this Nikon D800 Daylight. It's going to store these inside of your user, library, application support, Adobe, Camera Raw profiles. Camera Raw profiles, both Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw use that. So once they're stored there, any of the Adobe products that uses the DCP file for the camera profile will have access to that. This process can take a minute or two, and then it will pop up a dialog box that says that the profile has been created. Click OK, and then you're done with this. You can go ahead and hit Quit. I'm going to launch Adobe Lightroom Classic. It's going to pop this up. I already have an image open that probably has a lot of color in it. Yes, it does. So here you can see that import, and I'm automatically going to enable lens correction. And then from here, you can see that this is under Adobe Standard. I'm just going to come down and take a quick peek. It is version 5, which is the current. And under Adobe Standard, by default, when you launch Lightroom, it automatically assumes that you want to use one of the Adobe interpretations of RAW. Now, these are just modifications on your camera profile that they have decided will make it more punchy or what have you. But what we're going to do is we're going to come down here at Browse, and any profile that you've custom made will be under Profiles. So here you can see the Adobe RAW ones, the Camera Faithful ones. By default, the Camera Faithful aren't showing up. So if you like the Camera Faithful and not Adobe's interpretation, rather you want Nikon's interpretation, you can click on these and it will give you Nikon's interpretation. In this case, I want to use the Nikon D800. I want it to show up in my list, so I'm going to star it. Once I star a profile, it will now be able to show up inside the list here. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see the color here. So here's some shadows, some highlights, quite a bit of color. So I'm going to change this from Adobe Standard to D800 and watch the difference. Huge color shift here. This is a very accurate profile because it was made with my camera, my sensor, my lens. Whereas the Adobe profiles, yes, they're going to be made with the same camera model, but it's their sensor. So it's not going to be nearly as accurate as creating one of these for yourself. Now, once this is created, I haven't done anything else to this file. I can come over and hit Create Preset and call this Nikon D800 Daylight. And I'm going to want lens correction and treatment and profile. I can click create, and now if I want to import this automatically next time I import any of my images that are shot with this, I can come up to preferences, raw defaults, master, preset, user presets, Nikon D800, override master settings. Automatically, if I'm shooting with multiple cameras, I can show my serial numbers, default, create default. Now that is in there, and whenever I go to import, I can automatically select that and it will start importing everything with this. So creating custom profiles for yourself are going to give you much more accurate renditions of color. So if I'm doing one in daylight, in tungsten, I'll create one for mixed lighting scenarios. If I know I'm always shooting in this type of light, I'll create one. If I'm in an odd scenario, I'll create one specifically for that. It will give me infinitely more accurate color rendition. So that's a quick and easy way to really dial in your color by taking a few seconds and picking up a ColorChecker Passport photo. They have version 2 out now. They run about $80 to $100 typically, and they're worth every penny.